Chase Campen, welcome to the Firecast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Here we are, this unbelievable view, which you unfortunately get your back turned to. But so tell us a little bit about yourself before even you got into real estate. Tell us how you got into real estate.
I was in the corporate world first. I worked in the sports industry doing public relations. Then I was in the corporate world doing public relations and telecom business. This is in the early 2000s. And I had met a lady that I became engaged to and married, and her parents were realtors here in LA. And her dad was this great ambassador and representative of the industry, like cool guy, successful, but just really seemed to play the part and just a great representative of what a real estate agent is. And meanwhile, I'm climbing the corporate ladder where I am, and they're putting sales responsibility on my plate, and it's telecom service. And it's like, I'm happy to promote it and talk to the media and get coverage for the company, but to be responsible for the performance of the San Jose market of this product that I kind of barely even understand. And meanwhile, I'm looking at my father-in-law, he's selling houses in LA, cool stories, dealing with cool people, interesting people. Sure. It's such a dynamic industry. So got my license, started doing open houses for him on Sundays, kind of two-timing for a bit, and you quickly realize you can't, like as soon as you meet somebody that wants you to work with them, this is a full-time career. So made the move.
And that was when?
2002
or 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Boca Raton, Florida.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I was just there. And my parents, it's sort of a snowbird thing from the East Coast, so my parents had a house in a condo in Boca Raton for 20 plus years. So I spent a lot of time there and then hadn't been there in a long time. And I just went back and I almost forgot how home it was. So I went there with my fiance who was doing a shoot down there. So I was tagging along. And I'm like, oh, wait, there's the whatever store, and, turn this way. And just like,
it was familiar.
Yeah, I mean, I know it like a hometown.
Yeah. Yeah, we had lots of snowbirds, and back in the day. Now people just come there and stay.
Right.
But in those days, they would come for months, and our traffic and population would ebb and flow.
Yeah.
My grandmother lived there. She passed away not that long ago, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there you go. It's
from
East Coast,
New York,
Philly,
and then they
New
moved
York,
permanently.
Philly, the snowbird place, and then that's eventually where they retire.
Yeah. It was a good place to grow up. I didn't know it at the time, but looking back,
right.
it was a good place.
You never know until you go other places and you realize how good you had it.
That's right.
And as soon as I got out here, the weather, forget it. I didn't realize that, Pittsburgh has more cloudy days than Seattle.
Wow.
Do you believe that?
Well, the funny thing I discovered when I got here is I first landed in Orange County, and I would drive on Fridays up to the South Bay to visit a buddy of mine, a fraternity brother, and spend the weekends there and have fun. And I had a convertible at the time, and you get on the road on the 405 at 5 o'clock, and the sky sometimes is gray. Being from Florida, it's going to rain. Pull the top up, it doesn't rain. It's just gray sometimes.
Right.
Florida, when it's gray, there's water coming.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Although it has rained a lot more in recent years.
Yeah, in recent years. I had the same experience when I first moved to LA and lived in Santa Monica with my brother, and people would leave their convertibles out overnight with the top down. Right. I'm like, well, what if it rains? He's like, well, it doesn't rain.
Yeah, that doesn't happen.
Especially in the dry months. He's like, well, it just doesn't rain. I'm like, okay, but what if it does rain? Because it would total a car, right? Rain. Convertible would
it's a hard concept to understand.
And he's like, no, it doesn't rain. I'm like, because essentially we live in a desert, so there are some rainy seasons, but
a desert next to an ocean.
Yeah,
correct.
So what was like the spark? You started to work with your father-in-law. What was the spark that said, hey, this is it, real estate is it? Was there one particular spark? Is there anything you can remember that said like, hey, I'm now all in on real estate?
That's an interesting question. Like I don't know that there was, but looking back, this is a perfect career for my skill set. But you don't necessarily know that at that moment. And part of it was actually more where I was knowing that wasn't it, like that career and the trajectory is like, this is great, I'm moving up, but this doesn't appeal to me. I think that, I haven't thought about this analogy in a long time, but in the old days when you do an open house and you try to pick up a buyer, right? It was like being single and being at a bar.
Yes.
And meeting a lady or whatever.
Correct.
Whatever.
Yep, I agree.
Like connecting and, she gave me her number. Is that really her number when I call the next day?
Right,
Is it a fake? It's the same thing. Like, you don't have an agent? I'd love to work with you. They give you a number. You call them the next day. Was it real? Like cultivating that relationship from nothing, earning their trust on something very important in a very short period of time. Like those decisions are made on their part quickly. Like they talk to you for 90 seconds and decide if they want to work with you to execute a multi-million-dollar purchase.
That's amazing. Well, you said that that real estate aligns perfectly with your skill set. What's your skill set, and what do you think? If you describe what that skill set is that aligns so well.
I love people. First of all, I mean, that sounds a bit. Like some people don't like people.
Right.
I actually love people.
Right.
If someone says, "Oh, you don't want to do a deal with that person, they're so difficult."
Right.
That is never true for me. Like there really is rarely a person I interact with that I don't want to do business with. And in this job, people look at like the money, the paycheck, but you're really performing a service for someone during a critical time.
Very critical.
And for however long that transaction is, you are literally the most important person in their life, and you connect with them more than anyone. Like their family, their best friends.
That's right.
You're almost like in bed together for 30, 60, 75 days. Then it's over, at least the transaction's over, and everybody goes through withdrawal. Like, oh man, we were talking 4 times a day and we haven't spoken in a week. And I love the challenge of like some transactions appear to be easy. They're never easy. And a lot of times they're actually extraordinarily complicated. And so you're a problem solver. Like you don't know what wave is coming to the boat, what's going to happen to the boat when the wave hits. I love navigating that. I'd love a deal to have no complications, but when they have complications, so when you talk about skill set, like the ability and high stress, high emotion, a lot is at stake, and to be able to drive the boat through that terrain and get them home safely, so to speak.
So having known you just a little bit, and what we sort of asked you in our own words, like what are your superpowers? I think it's your positive attitude and your ability, as I always say, you find what you're looking for. If you're looking for the good in people, which I know you do, just on my limited experience, then it's amazing. It's amazing how powerful that is and how people are so receptive to that, right? Everyone wants to feel acknowledged and recognized, right? And that is a superpower. And this is a relationship business. And the more quickly we can gain and earn trust, the more successful we are in real estate. And to your point, the intimacy of the relationship while you're in a transaction, I've never really heard anyone say it that way. And I think that really resonated significantly to me. And to leverage that as a great opportunity to just continue to fortify the relationship and work through a lot of challenges, right? And I always say like adversity and challenges, if approached the right way, can be such a connector and such a bond with people. So I know that you do that really well and you embrace that. And that's awesome.
There was there's another thing that's very similar too, but again, Chase, you said it in a way that's quite different, and that is, first of all, love people. Okay, so great. Most salespeople we talk to, they love people.
Well, they would say they would love people. Sorry to cut you off, and then do their actions really express that?
Oh, and you love people, and then we look around, and one of the things consumers don't know is that there could be a very, from the outside, skilled realtor that has a big market share that all the realtors just hate dealing with. And we all know lots of those. And you cannot, the end user cannot imagine the negative impact that's going to have on the sale of their home, because, obviously, if you have a great house and it's well priced, it's going to sell. But that's not the way it works generally, because we're trying to create some magic in there somewhere. And, now you've got a realtor that everyone dislikes versus a realtor that everyone really likes. And and people will flock to that realtor. If there's two houses that are similar and one's a well-liked realtor, they'll flock to that.
Other agents will flock.
Yeah.
That's the distinction.
Oh,
because
other agents,
the consumer typically doesn't know,
Right.
right? But they don't realize what's going on behind the scenes and the additional exposure they get to their property when the agent representing them is well respected and liked amongst the agent community. It's amazing how important that is.
You wake up at some point and you realize like, oh, I have a good reputation. Like it's, you know what I mean? Like it's humble, you know, but you just realize you sort of hear from other people, oh, I've heard great things about it. And like, oh, wow, like I am so grateful to have that reputation and not to have the other one. And it also plays a role in multiples when you're representing a buyer, for example.
For sure.
Right? Seller, they're going to take the best offer. But if there's a couple that are similar, then you start getting into trustworthiness of the agent, and you know
people don't realize that.
So significant.
You do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, not because it'll get you an edge. It's sort of like a code of ethics.
Yep.
But it definitely helps in those.
And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it's just not the way it works. That's not the way everyone is, period. And we know it. We oversee
more than
thousands of agents, you know?
More than 50%. And I'm talking about the agents that really do a lot of business because they're the ones that make the market in essence. You know, it's 50-50 would almost be generous in terms. And like you said, you know, you turn around and you say like, oh, I've heard, and by the way, I've heard great things about you. I mean, right. We're, you know, firsthand. And then also, you know, over time, continuing to hear great things about you. And that is earned, you know, on a day-to-day basis, you know, how you treat other realtors in a deal. But you said something too, which is, so now let's say I have a listing, or let's say I have a buyer, and then I'm fortunate enough to hook that buyer client up into a listing that they're interested in. And that's where the skill begins. It's not, you know, I mean, depending on the deal, that's 80% of the skill could be after you get into escrow. And at that point in time, both listing agent and buyer's agent see this as, okay, so I have a payday, and they're already done the math, right? So it's like it's $1 million house, you know, I'm gonna get 2.5%. So it's a $25,000 payday when this thing closes. And then they're just looking for the shortest distance between open and close. And then they show frustration when a problem comes up. That problem is standing in the way of my $25,000 commission. And you know, and so that was a distinguishing factor when you said, hey, you know, I'd love a deal. Look, I'd love a deal to go smoothly. You know, that would be great. But inevitably, and we always say, expect the unexpected, for sure. We can't tell you what's going to go sideways in a deal, but there's like always at least one speed bump. I haven't had a deal that didn't have one speed bump. And sometimes, you know, multiple and potentially deal-killing speed bumps, and that you enjoy the challenge, and that it is high stakes, and that there's a lot at stake for your client. And
what's that approach like? Tell us a little bit more specificity on like how your mind works, what actions you take when challenges inevitably arise.
There's a few things. That concept of thinking about the paycheck. When you said that, and I thought back, when you first start this business and your first deal comes, you're thinking about that. All you're staring at is like a big golf tournament size check, you know, that you're going to get. But when you start doing, when you're in it and you're doing this, and this is your profession, there's a great saying that applies in everything, relationships, you know, that it's not about you, right? This transaction is not about me. It is not about the check, right? Another term is being of service, right? Like people don't look at us that way, but that's what we are. We are of service to the client during this intensely personal transaction. And if you're representing the buyer and there's some sort of catastrophic thing that comes up in the first inspection you do, and it's the sort of thing that is just, it's a deal breaker right off the cuff for that buyer, no matter what the money, whatever, then that's it. You move on, and you don't think about it. your job is now to go find the next one, right? Not to, oh, no, that issue isn't a big deal. We can get
We'll
it.
work through that. Yeah.
Right. It's not about you. And it's also not about this deal. If every person who ever bought or sold a house always used the person that represented them, we would have no business, right? You could never get into the business. Everybody would already be locked up. But obviously that's not how it works. Like, I don't know what the statistics are, but for whatever reason, a lot of times a deal happens, a property is bought or sold, and sometimes that principal is not happy with their agent. So the way I have to think about it is, I want you to be happy when this deal is over, and so happy that, sure, you'll refer me to your friends, but more importantly, you'll use me again. You're like, hey, Chase, times are good. We're going to buy a duplex. Great. Let's do it. Like, it can't be about the first deal. It has to be about them.
Among the people that are surveyed afterwards, and they say they were very happy with their realtor. So already, this is a lock. Like, sorry. And they even go as far as saying, how was your experience? They go, great. Would you use the same realtor again? They say yes. It is significantly less than 20%
I bet.
that reuse.
I think it's 87% said
something
they would
like
use the
that.
same agent again, and it's like 17%
Something like that.
actually do.
Right.
And that's a function of the follow-up and follow-through,
For sure,
largely,
yeah.
or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then you get into things like, again, so the deal closed and you reach out to them maybe a month later or something, and they don't reach out to you. They don't respond to that for whatever reason. You're like, oh no, what did I do? But it's not about you. Their world is upside down. They're moving into a place. They're filling it with furniture. They may not get back to you for 6 months. So, and that's the same with a friend. Almost take real estate deal out of it. Just your friend. You had an old friend and you reach out and they don't respond. You're like, what happened? What did I do? Well, you didn't do anything. They were upside down at that time. Reach out again.
And it comes back to like a core philosophy I live by: focus on what you can control. Don't attach yourself to the outcome. Embrace the process and the actions you can control, because you don't know what's going on in other people's lives or other people's worlds. You know a tiny fraction of what's going on. So all you can do is put your best foot forward, and things work out in your favor if you do that consistently over time, right?
Well, 100%. And you might appreciate this. I know your background in sports and wellness, but so I'll try not to go too deep into this, but I just read this article about the baseball player Bobby Witt, who's a young superstar. He's in his second year, he's MVP candidate. And he does like 10 to 15 things a day to forget baseball and hitting the ball, like for personal wellness and growth and meditation. One of the things is he calls this phone number every single day of a professor from Montclair State University. And this guy, every day for 12,000 days, leaves a motivational message on the voicemail. And I like old school phone. You call the phone, you hear the voicemail. And I've been calling it now for the last several days.
Wow.
And he's a character. I give you the number.
Right.
But
You should
we
give
want
us
the
that
number.
I will. I will. I'll pull it up.
Yeah.
But
We'll put it in the show notes for sure,
Yeah.
but let's get it out on
the message the other day was he was sort of making fun of that old Al Davis phrase that winning isn't everything, it's the only thing. But he said, that's not exactly true. And to your point, what's the only thing is your effort and your process. Like, you can't control winning, but you can control your effort. And I was in a squash match recently, and a few minutes in, and I in this match, I knew that I was the best player of the four on the court, but we were losing, and I was kind of lollygagging, and I turned around and I said to myself, dude, you have to crank it up right now. You're not giving max effort right now. Made that adjustment. We steamrolled, but it wasn't about the winning. It was about the max effort. You can't control the outcome, to your point.
Right.
Yep.
Just do your best right now in this moment, and that's all you can do.
Yep. Love it.
to defend the 2%, to defend the Al Davis statement. I do think that one of the things that he's saying in that is keep your eye on the prize, and that one of the things, like you said, max effort. And one of the things that we run into with realtors and other professions is that people will tell you how busy they are, but the results aren't there. And so you go like, well, the busyness is not what matters. The results are the only, that's like the thing. And we rarely say the results are the only thing that matters. We go the other direction. But these things, it depends on where you are on the graph of if
action orientation
Yeah.
or overthinking.
Yeah.
Because everyone's got their own natural behavioral, and it depends on where you are in the evolution of your
sure.
journey, right?
For sure.
And look, the results matter. Like, we all want results, right?
Yeah.
The best way to get results is to not focus on the results, but it's to focus on the process.
That's right. Yeah. The things you're doing, and the work, like the busy agent that's working their butt off but not getting results. Or what are they doing, right? Like, what is that work? Like, so someone said this recently. Okay, great, you're in the gym 60 minutes a day.
What are you doing?
But yeah, is it 3 minutes on the treadmill and then 20 minutes in the sauna and 25 minutes scrolling? It's like, what did you do there? So
and sorry to cut you off. And the first step is showing up at the freaking gym.
Yeah.
Because you got no chance at doing it well at the gym if you don't show up at the gym. So you got to show up at the gym first.
Yeah.
And then once you're showing up with consistency, then it's how do I refine what I'm doing at the gym in order to get the best results.
And that translates
Yeah.
obviously into our work.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I've learned for myself, and this is, it's great to have Josh as a different model. Josh is extremely regimented, sticks to his schedule. I still want you to take me to the gym.
Right. He has asked me several times.
I did.
I'm just so focused. I don't even like anyone near me.
See?
Right?
See?
That's selfish.
And I've dragged you to hot yoga
Right.
before, which
Yeah.
I'm sure you didn't enjoy, but at least you know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I know that instead of like, I could go to the gym too, and I used to go to the gym. And when I went to the gym, I got fit and I lifted weights and I did well, and I was a king of the lollygaggers, which I'm sure you 100% working with me, he can totally get that. I'm talking, I'm doing, but I would be at the gym for 3 hours. So trust me, I would get a real solid, 45, 50 minute workout in that 3 hour time period. Kill it, I would kill it, 50 minutes worth of workout in 3 hours. And so as I progressed through life, trying to get, like, I'm going to discipline myself to get that 3 hour workout, get that 50-minute workout done in an hour instead of 3 hours was a continuously losing battle to the point where, it would be very, very deflating. And so one of the great lessons that I learned along the way is to learn about yourself and to figure out a way that works. This is old school LA, so you probably have heard of it, but Barry's Boot Camp, which Barry sold, so it might be national. He got a nice paycheck, but I went to Barry's Boot Camp when Barry was teaching the thing. And, it started at a certain time, and if you were late, they hazed you. And it was 1 hour long, and they worked you to death for the 1 hour. They gave you a t-shirt if you vomited. I mean, it's like, really, but the thing that I knew, and then it's something I sort of discovered that, and I learned that, oh wow, I'm actually getting twice as much workout done in an hour than I do in a 2.5 hour gym thing. So
Focused.
At some point in time, I just quit going to the gym. It was too much of a waste of time, and then I had to find those things that would really
create the accountability.
What works for you. And Josh's program is not going to work for most people. And Josh, when people ask him about fitness,
people ask me, like, what do I eat? What do I do? I'm like, I'm happy to tell you, and oftentimes I do. And then I'm like, with that said, what works most effective for everyone is what they're willing to do sustainably, consistently. And what I'm doing, I can assure you that the vast majority of people will not do with consistency. So it's probably not the right recipe and plan for you, per Paul's point. Know yourself, have a degree of self-awareness, and make sure whatever you're doing, it's something you can commit to such that you'll do it with discipline and consistency. And that's the key to everything in life, whether it's real estate or fitness or any of that. So I think it's important to find your unique path. And going hand in hand with Chase, like, I'm such a big believer that passion is so highly correlated to consistency. So if you're passionate about it and you enjoy it and you love it, you're far more likely to do it with consistency.
Yeah.
So find what that is for you per your superpower. And that is one of the keys to success.
Yeah.
There's, you cannot create a workaround for lead generation in I don't want to say that. You cannot succeed in real estate without spending a fair amount of time, energy, and effort on generating business.
Right.
You
I would
just
say
can't.
who's ever having the most conversations is doing the most business. So what is it for you rhetorically, and then I'm going to ask you specifically now, that you do to generate those number of conversations? Because that's why you're a success.
And just
so
to,
successful.
to put it into perspective, give us an idea of what what's a typical year for you in terms of number of deals or volume or whatever.
It's funny. I'm wired a certain way, and those sorts of questions I'm actually rarely able to answer. Like I'm not one of. I'll give you an answer, but I'm not one of those guys that wears like the device that tracks your sleep. The data. Like I actually don't. We live in a world where we need to know the housing data, right? I understand that, but my personal data, the tracking, a buddy at the gym tracks every calorie, like the portion control. I'm not that kind of across my life. Like, so that question, but we have to know, we have to be aware. I would say 15 to 30 deals in a year. And that's a spread.
In LA,
it's
a big spread, but in LA,
yeah.
those are big numbers.
Yeah.
What's your average price point?
It's around 2.
Okay, so you're looking at 30 to 60 million in volume, which is pretty significant.
Yeah. Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah. And to say typically over $1 million of gross commission annually. I know because I've looked at the numbers.
He's measuring.
Okay.
And again, one of the things, it was my approach in writing a book, which is essentially financial self-help book, and my first draft, very long draft, 300 plus pages, a lot of time, energy, and effort put into it, but it was very prescriptive. So it sounded, when we did like the table read of it, I was like, I hate my book, and I had all these people who were invested in it, and time, energy, and money, and they're like, wait, what's wrong? Like, just calm down, But what I hated about it was so prescriptive. It's like, you need to do this. In order to have said, you need to do that. And then all I did was shift it to, hey, here's what works for me. Consider this idea. This is an invitation. It's the difference between heavy and light, and just being light about it. And there are many, many ways to be successful.
And even what you said, you don't rigorously track what you're doing. That's, again, it comes back to what I said. Everyone's got to find their own unique path, what keeps them motivated and passionate, so that they can do what they do, assuming they're successful like you are.
So piggybacking on what we've been talking about this whole time, you're talking about lead generation. You're talking about not using Josh's gym routine, that what works for him and not work for you. That's one of the interesting things. I mean, when I first got in this business, and I know it's similar for you both, there were only a couple of tried and true ways to generate leads, right?
That's right?
You could door knock, you could call. That was about it, right? But now there's Instagram. I mean, I happened to be on, I was just telling somebody this recently. I happened to be on season 1 of $1 Million Listing on one episode. And, people who know me privately, I'm a goofball, right? But in a setting like that, I come across as extremely conservative and straight-laced because I'm a professional, right? Like doesn't pay to be a goofball in a transaction, but after hours, whatever. But so on television, I was a straight-laced, conservative appearing real estate agent. Guess what? That's not that interesting on a reality show. So not only, like, they never said we don't want you back, but I didn't want to come back because it felt like a distraction to me from doing my job. But people have blown up their careers in a good way, right?
Right.
So you can literally be a television star real estate agent. You can be an Instagram star real estate agent. And as a person, as a colleague, you're like, Jim is really having success with that, and Susie is really having success. Like, there's 25 options of how to put yourself out there, but it's like you trying to chase his gym routines. Like, if it isn't authentic to you and it doesn't work for you, it ain't gonna work, right?
Yep.
And I will say that I think, while I agree with that, and it can be a very good thing, that there are many ways to do this now, that what I see more often than not, again, because Josh and I, our sample size is huge, and that is that people that want to avoid the things that really work, which is the personal connection,
That's
right.
Will bury themselves in social media or Instagram, or it's just like, old school. An old school example of it is marketing. Marketing doesn't work well without prospecting. Marketing actually works very well with prospecting. So if you're going to send out postcards, it's not going to do much for you. Now, if you're door knocking and sending out postcards, now suddenly postcards, are a big deal.
It's prospecting based, marketing enhanced.
Yeah.
The one-to-one ability to build a relationship cannot be replaced by the social media, but the social media will amplify the foundation of the relationship. So if you have the foundation, the social media can be, fire on top of it.
Right.
But if you don't have that foundation, I don't think it matters at all.
And we certainly have had people on the podcast that generate a lot of a mega business from Instagram. And on the other hand, we were working with a guy who has one of the best real estate Instagrams that I've ever seen and generates no business through it. And he does okay. His Instagram's great, but
Right.
So
How do you build your relationships? Tell us and perhaps how that may or may not have evolved. So where did it start? Where does it look like now? How do you having those?
how did you get your first? Sometimes our first deal falls into our lap. I call that the gimme. First couple. People generally can have a couple of gimmies, right? So, a relative needs to sell a house or whatever, but, when you're doing 15 to 30 $2 million houses, my guess is you're going to have one or two gimmies and the rest are earned.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as my first deal, I mean, and I don't necessarily know that you're asking me that question specifically, but I had a massive advantage. My father-in-law was managing the office that I was in. And this was in the time that they could dominate a neighborhood in a different way than is possible now. And so they literally, I was their son-in-law. So here, Chase, call these people. And so I had an easy on-ramp into the industry, right? Okay, great. But now what do you do though, right? Like that gets you off the ground, but how do you build the business? So first of all, I've made the phone calls. I've done that, right? I've door knocked a lot. It's not something I'm doing now, not for any particular reason. I loved doing it, quite honestly. I brought something tangible of value. The name of that document would change over the years. It was initially called the Chase Campen Real Estate Report, the Neighborhood Real Estate Report. I knew with confidence that when I knocked on that door, like no matter what you were doing, it couldn't possibly be true that you didn't want what I was giving you.
Love it.
And without that, it would have been hard for me because then I would just feel like I'm being a pest. But instead, I actually literally believe, and I believed it to the core, that I was giving them something of value. But aside,
that's so big.
If I could stop you there. So what I imagine is that Chase Campen, I mean, sometimes when I look at these door knockers, it's like, oh, just drop them in a neighborhood and they're going to go knock the doors. And for me, I'm just like you. I'm like, oh, that's not cool. I imagine that the Chase Campen dropped into a neighborhood that you don't know and you don't have any supporting materials with you, and you go knock that door, that's a very uncomfortable thing. But the Chase Campen that's like, this is your neighborhood, you've got this thing that you believe in your heart that, like, if they're like, oh, we're busy, you're like, okay, no, sorry about that. Just take this, I think you'll like it. That really
empowers you.
Yeah. One time, I have so many door knocking stories, but this guy came to the phone or came to the door and he had a phone. He's like, I don't want that. And he was kind of rude. And I understand, like, I'm coming to your door, but I was like, no, you literally want this. This is like, if you look at this, it's going to tell you, it's going to give you an idea what your house is worth, and everybody cares what their house is worth. And this was kind of, I don't know, early days or almost pre-Zillow. Like, you're sitting on this thing. It's really important. Like, you actually want this. Like, it's okay. You don't ever have to call me or talk to me, but it isn't true that you don't want this. Great.
But it's such a great mindset to be able to have. And that, again, it sort of links back to what we were talking about in the sense that you're setting yourself up to be in a situation where you're comfortable and win.
Yeah, look, if people feel your confidence and conviction and belief in yourself, which you have when you're prepared with something of value, like you never feel like you're imposing on them. You're like, I'm here to do you a favor. Well, you may not even realize it, but
The funny thing is that like a lot of times you'd walk up and there'd be a sign that would say no soliciting, and I would have this mental debate in my head. I'm like, I'm actually not soliciting. I'm giving information. I am not going to ask you to do anything in this conversation.
Nice.
Like, I'm not even going to bring it up. Like, it was almost to my detriment. I would never. At one point, I started weaving in the concept of, have you considered making a real estate move? But for years, it was just, here's this thing. The other thing is how incredibly often, minutes later, you would be getting a tour of this house. And you're a stranger. And there's something fascinating about that dynamic that, we live in an area where, oh my God, who's coming to my door, and safety and security. And, however I look, whatever image I present, but within minutes, you're getting a tour. I'm sorry for the mess. I don't even know you. You were not expecting me.
To you as you're knocking on the door.
And I'm going to tell you that experience is not happening to everyone, especially in Los Angeles. And I do believe that it's the energy that you come with, and it's the
confidence.
I'm not soliciting. I'm here to give you this info, and it's not the person that's on the phone, but it's like, oh yeah, maybe. Oh, and then they start looking through, like, oh, actually, I do have a question, and you're like, well, I could really answer that question best, And they're like, well, come on and take a look or whatever. That is you showing up in a very different way at that door that's getting that invite in.
Yeah, and look, it's authenticity, it's preparation, which comes with confidence, and it's humility and gratitude. And I think those are key. And it's like where you started this whole conversation, it's being of service. Right. When you feel like you're being of service, then you feel like your true authentic self, and people gravitate toward that.
Yeah, I think that's right. The other piece of the lead gen, my father-in-law he almost coined this term, and he was so fascinated that I did this, but he called it social marketing. And this was years ago, but knock on doors, make phone calls. But what I really found out, again, for me, like the prescription that worked for me, was just being myself. So that meant, I'm coaching all the little league teams because not for any other reason than I want to be near my kid and coach this team, and it's really fun. But guess what happens when you coach teams? You meet parents, right? I call. I mean, we're getting in the weeds here about being a parent, but the first couple of years of parenting, when they're babies, toddlers, those are very hard years. When they start going to school and you get to meet parents, I call that the payoff. Like, yeah, sure, you're watching your kid grow, but oh, hey, you're a fellow dad. Oh man, let's get a beer. Let's talk about the Dodger game. Like, there's starting to be a fun component to this besides the task of raising the kid, which is incredibly rewarding. But I would join organizations, a Rotary Club, the parent association, and inevitably in those organizations, they're always starved for leadership. And you find yourself becoming the leader of that organization. And you're doing it because it's enjoyable to you, it's meaningful to you, because you love connecting with these people. You're not thinking about, you're not putting in hours and hours of volunteer time away from home and do these things because you might get a deal. But you're making relationships. It's the same with the gym, by the way. I'm not quite on your plan, of 2 hours of roaming around chatting with people, but
that's my old plan.
That's the old plan. Now we're sweating in hot yoga.
Go in the gym.
But my workout is it's a tidy 50 to 55 minutes, but there's definitely an extra 10 to 12 minutes of just crossing paths. Hey, did you read that article in the Wall Street Journal? A 4-minute deep dive. The next thing you know, you're helping somebody who lost their home in Palisades fire or Altadena. I mean, literally both these things are happening. And they've talked to you 3 times a week for 3 years, but didn't really know what you do. And then all of a sudden, like, wait, you could help me find something, or you could help me figure out like how I even want to approach selling my now lot or my home that's still standing. That, you know, but that's a multi-year organic connection that occurred, and then one day there was a need. But that's just a byproduct of you being you, not having a mission or an agenda.
I have to say, you said star for leadership, and I love, like, I couldn't agree more. Like, leaders take initiative, they give with no expectation, and when you do that consistently over time, you get far more back over time than you could ever have given. And you're not doing it for that, but that's just the result. And again, that's just very natural and organic for you, and that's a huge linchpin to the success of your business.
School and parenting it's a great entree into networking. You know,
and we talk about that. You talk about it all the time.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
Like when we have agents that are you know, have young kids, it's like, what are you doing with respect to the school? You know?
I have to ask you, you know, because you already strike me as a service first and a not pushy, and you know, and those sorts of things get people. Get salespeople off track and into trouble. You know, on the other hand, you have, and I can think of a couple of realtors, the name almost blurted out. I'm glad it didn't. But, you know, a woman that I know, and she's just fierce, you know, she's going to, like, you know, go in and every networking event, and she's all about real estate and what are your real estate plans? And, you know, she's a different person. Yeah. So again, doing things in your own way. But I want to know how you, as a service-oriented and sort of less high-pressure sales, those are the folks that when I coach with them, they're in trouble because they're not asking for the order. They're not letting people know they're in real estate. They're not converting these relationships to business. Yeah. So how do you make that? How do you convert that without being the other realtor?
Being you, yeah.
And first of all, to the point about being service oriented and that can, like, that's a wonderful thing, right? But also you have to do your job, right? I remember one time I told my assistant, I'm like, I have like 5 part-time jobs right now, which are all piling up to one full-time job, and I already have a career. You had a great video on your Instagram recently about, like, show me your calendar and I'll know how your business is going, right? Like, there's only so much time in that calendar, right? So, hey, great, you're doing service and you're doing all these wonderful things. But I also have to pay the bills and I have to earn a living, right? I have a great friend, one of those wise guys that always has kernels of wisdom. He told me several years ago, when you read a great article, if you're reading and you're like, you know what, Josh Spitzen would love this point, make a note and or even send Josh a note right then and there. The people in your network, I just read this, you're going to find this interesting. That's one thing. But the other thing, more pertinent to what you said, is when everyone says, hey, Chase, good to see you. How's business? Great. It's great. Okay. But say actually something. Say something very specific. Like, Paul Morris is asking me how business is. Paul loves investing in property. I know he loves owning multi-units. Oh, it's great, Paul. It's an interesting time in the multi-unit space. A client of mine just refied and pulled some money out and bought a duplex, and I love doing those deals. Yeah, business is great, you know. And we walk away, and that was an authentic, organic answer. But you're like, wait a second, I didn't even know Chase sold 2 to 4 unit properties, that sort of thing. And so it's just. And
I wonder what's coming across Chase's desk that I might be interested in.
Exactly, But okay, great, you're passive, you don't push people, but you do this thing for a living and you actually do it well. And it's foolish to not remind the people that you're close to what you do in that sort of organic way, periodically, not every week.
And that's just being, and I think I took a couple of things, being very intentional, planting the seeds with specific examples, which is something we talk about a lot because that resonates a lot when people, when there's an actual specificity in a specific situation that it's involved in. And I think that, so it's like, and it's having that level of self-awareness that I am of service, but you know, like you said, and I got to pay the bills, right? Like there's nothing wrong. I think so many people are afraid to say it, like with wanting to make money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can do well and do good.
That's right. Yeah.
That's a big one for me.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
And speaking of specificity,
Right.
so where are you getting your business now?
Well, I think, first of all, that I've been doing this for 22 years or so. And I realized a year or two ago that you've sort of reached that critical mass, is a term, that you've done enough transactions, you've made enough connections, you've sustained enough relationships over time that your phone is going to ring, right? So, okay, great. So like the phone's going to ring with a deal that you weren't even anticipating, wasn't on your radar. That's wonderful. Aside from that, it's really living my social network, if you will. I'm still plugged into a lot of organizations. I still see the same people repeatedly. I belong to the Jonathan Club, and I'm there 4 days a week. Dozens of authentic relationships and friendships that I see these people all the time. I have a book club, these sorts of things. Like again, back to probably the first thing I said, love people. I like to do things with people. Sure, I enjoy my solitude here and there, but put me in the company of people. I belong to 2 different breakfast groups that meet weekly. Like I love these connections. They're extremely enriching. And for me, it's just fun.
And you had like a speaker series at one point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still do that?
I'm looking for a different location, but yes, it's called the Larchmont Speaker Series.
Right.
That was a ton of fun. Again, inviting someone, it's just like the door knock. Like, I know the neighborhood wants to hear from this person. Set up a 2-hour thing. First 45 minutes is cocktails and hors d'oeuvres. After an hour, the speaker takes the mic, talks for 20, 25 minutes, Q&A. People love it. They're gathering, they're meeting friends and neighbors.
Give me an
You're
idea.
the connector, and it's your
Exactly,
brand.
exactly.
Yeah.
Give me an idea of who the neighborhood wants to hear from. So what would be like a great speaker for that?
One of the first ones I did was the guy that ran the Mills Act, Act program. This is a historical home neighborhood. People are very curious, like what that entails. Another guy was on the permitting side, like people from the city, for example. I brought in somebody who was actually running for local office, right? Anything. It could, if the 3 of us riffed, we could come up with 20 subjects that people would find fascinating.
And then how do you get, how do you fill the seats? First of all, are you paying for their cocktails and their hors d'oeuvres?
I'm paying. Yeah, I'm picking up the tab on the room, the food, all that. So they just show up and enjoy it.
Right.
Give
Which
me
you could,
an
by
idea.
the way, get sponsored by some other like shop owner, perhaps. I mean, that's anyway.
Yeah.
I don't wanna,
Yeah.
you know.
Give me an idea of what that costs. And are you doing that at the Jonathan Club, or you're doing that because Jonathan Club's not in near where
Right.
you
I
live?
was doing this at Wilshire Country Club.
Okay.
Yeah. I would say that was running.
Well, that's got to be expensive.
Yeah, it was maybe up to $1,500 per time, but
it's
not
not that bad.
There's 25 people in the room, right? It's intimate. Again,
Yep.
that word intimate. Like,
Yep.
and people, I thought you were gonna ask me, people, like on the one hand, like, do people really want to go on Saturday at 3:00? Like, and who's Chase? And because some people knew me, were coming, some didn't. But on the other hand, how many anybody's, let alone real estate agents, are inviting you to something in your neighborhood at a nice place to hear from a speaker you couldn't possibly not be interested in what they're saying?
Sure.
And there's some bites and drinks, right? Like, you're not getting 25 of those invitations a month.
So who's the invite list?
First of all, it went to my whole network, okay? And that's including people in other areas and all over the place, quite frankly. But every once in a while, there's definitely going to be somebody that like, oh, that's interesting. And if nothing else, my network knows that I'm doing this thing. And then it's the neighborhood. I would advertise it in the Larchmont Chronicle, for example, put it on Instagram. So, but also cap the guest list. And there literally is, I mean, I have to cap it. I can't have 400 people, right? So there really literally is a sort of a sense of urgency of RSVP. Because I can only take the first.
There's nothing like some degree of exclusivity to get people to move, especially when you're providing significant value.
And when you do that, you're collecting the information of the people that come, because some of it's going to come out of your database. You already have their information, but then you put it in the Larchmont Chronicle, so you've got some strangers walking in the door. Are you collecting their info?
Yeah, just minimal contact. You know, they have to reach out and RSVP. So I've got a phone
So they're
number.
not walking through the door.
They have to have a reservation. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, so they have to reach out to me.
And Wilshire Country Club, I haven't thrown an event there, but I've thrown it at some other country clubs, and it's like, no jeans, no this. And I've had to turn people away. It's beautifully dressed, but they've got jeans on. You can't come in.
They have to communicate the dress code.
Or something that creates that. And then are you doing a follow up protocol to those people that come to that event?
I am reaching out to them afterwards and thanking them. It's typically via email. I'm not calling them, but I don't. The way my CRM works, like if we have email correspondence, you're sort of in my system. And I apologize to people. I run into people all the time. Oh, I get your weekly email blast. I love them. I go, I'm sorry. You got into my email vortex. I don't even know how it magically works. But so I don't execute some sort of specific plan with those people, but they're in my sphere of contact. And this is anecdotal. I'm making this up, but I think sometimes it could just take one thing. Like, They saw an ad for a particular speaker event. They went to it. They enjoyed it. They leave. For all I know, they unsubscribe from my email, but it's in their head that Chase is a good guy and did this thing of value for the community, and I enjoyed it. And they make a mental benchmark that if I have a need, I'm going to reach out to that guy.
And also frame it a different way. And we always talk about the invitation alone is of significant value, even if they never come, because to your point, the seed got planted in their mind. Hey, Chase is doing this for the community. He's out there. He's knowledgeable. He's bringing value. And they didn't even go, but they got the invite. So there's real value in that alone.
I hope my friends don't hear this, but I have a share of Dodger season tickets. I have 4 seats. And I love calling friends and asking if they can come. And like, I can't come. Ah, darn. But you just got ding. I invited you to something. So you bring 3 people, but you invite 15. So
Right.
So tell us about, I happen to know you have a weekly, I believe, newsletter that goes out to your sphere and whoever. Tell us about that.
Sure.
Because I think that's very unique and very powerful and a big linchpin in your business.
Yeah, it definitely is. I think, real estate agents, we're marketers, right? So we're beating everyone over the head all the time with all of these different methods that we've talked about. I feel like everybody has a newsletter. I have a newsletter, but I can't just send an email every Friday like, hey, I sold these houses, or here's 7 things you can do to prepare your house for the upcoming winter. I have to add value, right? And so I stole this idea from this national football writer. I love writing. I love creative writing, by the way. So this writer, in his weekly NFL column, he had this section called 10 Things I Think. And it might be a tidbit about a quarterback or a linebacker or a head coach or whatever. But it would also inevitably get into things like, here's a beer I discovered last week that I really like. And I love that section. Like if I was pressed for time, I would just go write down. So I stole a bit of that and put it in my newsletter, and it's called 4 Things I Think.
Right. And 10's a lot of pressure.
Exactly.
Right.
10 is a lot. Yeah. And he's paid to do that. I mean, in a way, I guess I'm paid. But just 4 things. And it's a podcast recommendation. It's a restaurant. It's a thought about, hey, I just moved my last kid into college and I didn't cry. Like, is that okay? Like just being real and sharing information. And I cannot believe that people actually read this. And how do I know? Because people respond to me, or I run into them at parties and they reference something, and it's humbling. Like, I'm doing this because I'm supposed to do it and I enjoy it. It's a level of business outreach, but it's really fun for me. And the fact that people like it and read it is amazing.
And that's the key. Sorry. I mean, do something you're passionate about. You'll do it with consistency. People will feel it. They'll sense the authenticity. And when it's of value, right? And that's the perspective you're coming from. It's magic in many ways.
Most people do not do very many things, if at all, with great consistency. So, for example, Josh's, video Daddy and the Dude, it's every Sunday. You could like it, hate it. You could think it's in the middle. You could ignore it. But it's out every Sunday. And that alone sends a particular message. And in the last, how many years?
5+ years. It started right at the beginning of the pandemic. I've missed like 3 in 5 years.
That's awesome.
I mean, that's
yeah. And 3 were very intentional. Like I was like, I'm making a point to like miss this because it's, my wife's birthday or whatever it was, or we were on vacation in Spain, whatever.
Yeah.
And also the point that you made about the 10 things I think you got that from somewhere. I have a friend who's in the business and has a tremendous national presence, and he decided he was going to do a newsletter, and I got like one of his first 2 or 3 newsletters, and I called him and said, hey, you know what? You should do this 5 bullet point Friday. And he's like, well, I'm not sure I like it. I go, here's the thing. The person that I know in the world that has the most extensive email list has the highest open rate, and
Tim Ferriss.
Is Tim Ferriss, exactly. And I just sent him Tim Ferriss's. I'm like, dude, just copy this.
Yeah.
And he did it. And I think he doesn't do a 5 bullet point Friday, but he does do like the 4. It's sort of the 4 things that I'm thinking about this week, like what I read, what I'm thinking. He copied Tim Ferriss's thing, and his feedback from that. Now, I just gave him an idea. He had the massive following. He had the energy to do it. He does it very consistently. But that one little pivot made a huge difference. So doing it the way somebody else has done it. And by the way, my intention is to like, I'm absolutely starting a newsletter, but I'm getting around to it.
We'll send you Paul's email.
Yeah, we'll send it to
I
you.
started to get Chase's because I asked for it.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
What may I ask? How many people do you have in your newsletter?
In the vicinity of 5,600 or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you look at open rates?
No.
Okay.
I'm just chuckling. That just goes back to my
it's your measurement thing.
I'm just cruising.
Yeah, no, I understand. You're going with what works,
Yeah.
And with what works for you. And do you are you looking to expand that 5,600 all the time? Are you trying to add? Hey, let me add a few hundred names here or there.
I don't think about that. I mean, I need to, right? I mean, you have to grow, right? And so, but it's actually more that I continue to connect with people for a million reasons. I just was connecting with a guy this morning about getting him into my Tuesday morning squash group. Now I have his email address so that I can invite him to the squash group. Well, guess who's going to start receiving 4 things I think every Friday? Like it happens that way. Not so much me thinking about it. It's just being out there, being in the world.
Yours is so organic, and it's just interesting. Different people, and my approach to it is very unorganic. So some of the businesses that I own have a huge mailing list already. So, the title company that I own, they just have all of these people that have transacted with them. So there's a massive amount of, so one of the things that I'm doing is running around and collecting, all of these. And I did do it one time before where I did a Substack and we did like 3 episodes, speaking of consistency, did like three, Substack newsletters and then quit. It wasn't the right format. It wasn't the right time. And I really measured, like I went with the 2,200 agents or, in our network, the open rate was massive. And then I added the like 40,000 names from, the title company. And, of course it fell off the cliff, but I still got a lot of opens and very few unsubscribes. So, that I look at things in a very macro way. It's not, there's no right or wrong about it. And in fact, you said there's a couple of ways. When we came in the business, there were a couple of ways of doing business. And you had the old school Mike Ferry, not Tom Ferry. The old school Mike Ferry was, get as many people as you can, call them all, and say, are you ready to buy or sell right now? Yes or no? And no is great because you didn't waste any time.
Yeah.
And, no. Okay, never mind. So, hey, Chase, are you ready to buy or sell or invest, in the next 12 months? Yes or no? No. Okay, never mind. And then you just do so many of those calls that you're going to strike gold. And that works.
Yeah.
And then the sort of the other end of it, oh gosh, am I going to forget the guy's name? But there are a lot of people that do it, but there's one guy in particular that, so Mike Ferry would have said, right, that's exactly right. That's the example that I use. Mike Ferry might say, okay, how many names are in your database? Okay, 3,000. So you need to get it to 6,000 because we got to, right.
Numbers.
And then if you went to, I think it is Brian Buffini, the example that I use, he's like really chunks down to like, who are your A+ people that are going to either, refer you and they do client appreciation parties. Mike Ferry would not be recommending a client appreciation party. He'd, call. And if you went to Buffini and said, hey, my list is 1,000, he'd be like, 1,000, like trim that down to, 400 or, so that you can really focus on these people. So there really are different ways to do that. And I guess mine is more macro level than Chase, but it works for your personality.
Yeah.
So
let me ask him a question.
You mentioned, but see, I want to get some. Again, it's because of our listenership. So, one of the things that Chase told me is it's not about us. So it's about them.
Right.
And I love that. Is there a particular email program that you use that you like, or?
I used to use MailChimp years ago.
That's right. Very common. Yeah.
The one I'm using now is just in-house of the brokerage.
Got it.
It's their own platform.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then you mentioned CRM, so I imagine it's also in-house brokerage CRM, which is a good one. Yeah. And how active are you in the CRM? Are you doing it yourself? Are you not doing it at all?
I'm in it, but not, I sort of have my own way of using a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So I'm in it, I'm looking at it, but I'm not doing a consistent thing of like every day I spend
looking
1
at the
hour.
analytics.
Yeah,
You're not.
Yeah.
Can you give an idea, or there's just another sort of organic thing? How many hours a day do you think you prospect or lead generate? Do you do it at a certain time? Do you just do it as it comes?
That's a good question. I'm not going to count, the social stuff. I'm not just take that off, even though that happens. Would just take that off the table. I would say 90 minutes feels like a good amount. It could be 2.5 hours. It could be 3 hours. It could be 45 minutes. And I'm not, it's in my calendar, but I do what I need to do that day and what I'm able to do that day.
And is that largely following up with people you already know?
It could be anything.
Okay.
Yeah. It could. One of my favorite things to do is, you tell me. I mean, this happens. Like, I want to buy a condo in this particular building. Great. Guess who's calling all the owners in that building right now? Or I need to find something up to $2 million in Larchmont Village for my daughter. Great. I'm making phone calls. So I love calling with a purpose, right?
Right.
Yeah, with
That's
a target.
a very common theme for strong producers, right? They have a real buyer and they're going out looking for the off-market opportunity. And it's
Exactly.
amazing what comes from that, including listing opportunities, right?
Because I don't want to call you and say, I have somebody that might be interested in your house, and then do the, oh, they're not going to quite interested, but now that I'm here, let's
Right.
list it. You know, like I want that authenticity.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
So yeah, so in the roughly 90 minutes, you're that's varying based on what client needs are or whatever, but you're pretty
happening.
purposeful about calling out with a purpose.
Yeah, and you can't do nothing, right? Like there has to be something. So whatever the flavor is of that day or that week, but there
So
has
you're
to be external.
conscientious and purposeful
Yes.
about that,
Yeah.
of growing the database.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you get these periods where, hey, I've got some real active buyers and some real active sellers, therefore I'm really working on my business and not doing a lot of lead gen, and then things slow down and then you're doing more lead gen, or are you pretty consistent?
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to be consistent, right? And when your hair is on fire because you have 7 or 8 deals having, like, that's the best time to. But it gets challenging. Like sometimes you're working so much on the deals that you're working on that like you should still be. That
Building
is
the
the very
pipeline,
best
right.
time. Yeah, but sometimes it's easier said than done.
So I always like asking the question, like, what does the ideal world look like for you from a business perspective 3 years from now?
How many?
3.
I mean, first of all, I was talking to my brother yesterday about he has retired, and he was talking about his wife. He's trying to convince his wife to retire, and she's like 61 maybe, and she's high strung and loves her career. I'm like, man, you should not be talking to her about retirement. Like, that sounds like a disaster. So I'm not. And actually, what I said to him is, I can't imagine in 10 years, for example, that I'll even be thinking about retiring. It's a wonderful thing about this. I think, first of all, knock on wood, we're all getting healthier and longevity. So today's, 65 doesn't look anything like the last generation 65. But no, I hope I am still entering my peak performance, actually as a human, but in my career, right? So I won't give you numbers, but I hope the business is on an upward trend.
Okay.
And there's no reason that shouldn't continue. I say that just because of all these things we've been talking about. Like, you're making relationships, you have a good reputation, your clients like what you're doing for them. The business should continue to grow every year. So I look forward to that 3 years from now. And also my kids, I'm an empty nester now. So life will look a little bit different. So what do I do at that time? And that's a fun question that I'm exploring.
Yeah. I always like to say, when work and play are indistinguishable, you're living a powerful life. And I know that's how you live, and that's how we live.
Yeah, no doubt.
How many people are on your team? Do you have other salespeople on your team? Do you have admin? What does the team look like to support your activity?
I've had an admin person for more than 10 years who shifted into an agent role recently, and I have not yet replaced her. So right now it's a 3-person team of all agents. And then I've got another newer agent that we're sort of in an unofficial capacity of doing an occasional open house kind of thing, that there could be a team slot for that person. But right now it's a small 3-person group.
Do you think that having an admin that would take some of these tasks, some of the more mundane tasks off your plate would benefit you?
I'm doing an experiment right now to see what does it look like not having one. There's no question it's better to have one. So,
And I had heard about it for a decade, but finally used a virtual assistant, and with, by the way, very mixed results. And what I mean by that is, some severe flops, but I have one who's a personal assistant who's amazing. So
Yeah.
that, they can't run errands, because
Right.
they're not here, but boy,
Right.
they can send the really good ones, send like the Uber to pick the thing up and schedule that delivery. It's pretty
interesting.
It's pretty amazing. I know you mentioned your father-in-law. Okay, that's great. You had that start. Certainly you're way out. You're way out of that and having that little advantage. What if you have a new agent? It sounds like you might have a new agent, but you have a new agent, or I'm gonna send, my daughter or my friend's son to you because you're a great realtor and they want to get into the business, what's your advice to a new realtor who maybe not even from this area?
Okay. Well, first of all, to go back 1 second, the reference of my father-in-law, and full disclosure, I'm divorced.
Right.
5 years.
Right.
But
He's not sending you a ton of business.
well, he's, we have a great relationship. He's 99% retired, but
Sure.
it's just funny. Like, what do you call the person that was like, I have an ex-wife. Is he my ex-father-in-law? Or I don't have a new father-in-law. Is he still like, I don't know what that title is, but
Right.
it's just
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, exactly.
This is LA.
Right.
Yeah, I just had to honor that.
Right.
But the person that wants to get into the business, listen to this episode that we just did, or any episode
Sure.
you do. Like, there are paths for you to build your business, and you pick the one that works for you. So let's do an open house every Sunday. Try to pick up some Saturday open houses. Let's farm. Let's pick a geographic neighborhood for you. Let's do all the things, right? Let's make the phone calls. In the beginning, you kind of have to pick like the 3 or 4 most basic blocking and tackling strategies and do them. And then over time, you get to start thinking about, well, which one worked, which one was authentic for me. But in the beginning, you just have to do it.
Literally said the same thing in my coaching this morning. Try them all. You got to experiment, and then know that ultimately you're going to narrow it down to 1 or 2 and really go largely all in on those.
Exactly.
What is a single pain point in your business now that you'd like to solve?
That's an interesting question. I mean, the easy answer is, I said a little earlier how happy I am that the phone rings, but it's like, it would be great if the phone rang more, right? The only other thing I'll say is this is extremely micro and at this very moment in time, but I just find pricing right now on a listing to be an interesting exercise because we've been in a certain kind of market for the last several years, and there was a tactic that was going to work 98 times out of 100. It's become very different in the last 6 months, and so. Look,
what was that tactic?
Your house is worth about $1 million. Let's price it at 875 and
we'll blow it
decide
out of
which
the
of the
water.
14 offers we want to take and sell it for 150.
That's correct.
Listing
That
it
used to
for
work.
150 is not going to work.
Yep.
Right.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Couldn't
Price
agree
at
more.
10%, 15%
Right.
under market,
And-
get multiple offers, and bid it 15%
And what's working? What's
beyond.
working now?
Well,
It's a lot of things that aren't working.
Yeah,
now.
it's extremely dependent on the house, its amenities, its condition, its location. You could still do that strategy on certain houses, but it is no longer simply that strategy is no longer a one size fits all. Like you really have to get very strategic, understand that house, where it fits in the marketplace, and then talk to the seller about how do you want this to go. I don't mind the aspirational seller. Like there are some sellers you say, I'm a seller if I get 3.5. Okay, as long as we know that going in, and as long as I think 3.5 is attainable and not absurd, right? On the other hand, you say, I really want this over in 6 weeks. Okay, well here's the strategy that's going to get us there. And I don't hear anyone else use this phrase. I think it's brilliant, but maybe it isn't because no one else is using it. But to me, the list price has nothing to do with the sale price.
Yes.
It only has to do with the level of activity that you're going to receive.
That's
and
right.
the activity is what's going to drive the sale price. If we have one person walk in the door in 4 weeks, if we have 100 people walk in 2 weeks, those are going to be different pricent outcomes.
Different outcomes, different
Very
sales
interesting.
outcomes.
Yeah,
For sure.
and it has been elusive even for some extremely experienced agents.
Oh, yeah.
This sort of odd market. So
Yeah.
I think that's very strong wisdom.
So we do a fire round, which is asking interesting questions to great people, and we could go back and forth on them for a long time, but we don't do that because it's the fire round. So we'll throw some questions at you. Whatever your answer is, we'll take it and move on. What's your idea of perfect happiness?
Perfect happiness is a couple things. Number one, rich people in your life, and I'm not talking about money, but people that you value being with them, your loved ones, my children. I have a lot of close friends. Keeping those people in your life, keeping in contact with them. Exercise is critically important to me, mentally and physically. And then back to this other theme we've talked about a few times, is just the day ended and you gave it your best that day. Because that's an uncomfortable conversation when you didn't do that, right? So because you're the only person that knows.
Love it. So. What's the quality you most admire in others?
The one that comes to mind is intelligence. I love being around people that are really intelligent, and it's not hard to find people that are more intelligent than me. And I love that. I love being in a deal with a highly intelligent person. I mean, our job is to see 3-4 moves ahead. They see 5 or 6 moves ahead. I love that.
What's your greatest fear?
Actually, it's funny. I mean, I was just gonna say, I reached a certain point, and I call it like you sort of ran out of F's to give, right? Like, but I'm not gonna say I don't have fears. I mean, okay, obviously my children, their safety, their health, their happiness, that's the most important thing to me. Even though I know this isn't true and it won't happen, but like every realtor, is that my last deal?
Interesting.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
That's a tough one. Last night, I was at a dinner to the president's dinner of an organization I've presided over for the last 2 years, and I passed the baton to somebody. And the person, I give this sort of affable, friendly exterior, which is true. It's 100% genuine. It's who I am. And he applauded that, but he also commented that as an organization, we had some really rough waters over the last 12 months. And he commented on my ability to navigate that. And he's an attorney who also runs a business. And for him to compliment my ability to keep everyone focused and calm during those times and get a great outcome, it was nice to hear somebody point that out.
Leadership.
What's the talent you'd most like to have?
Well, I'll say this. Pre-pandemic, I started playing the sax. I was obsessed with trying to nail those 80s sax riffs that were in every great song. And I was getting decent at it. And then the pandemic happened and life happened and I stopped taking lessons. I would love to get good at that thing.
What's your greatest achievement?
3 incredible kids.
So you're into fitness. LA has some great hikes. You go up a very steep grade, get to the top of this great hike, which has a wonderful vista, and your family, your colleagues, your clients, your community are all down below, and you shout one thing. What do you shout?
You know what comes to mind? I love you.
Nice.
I was completely predicting.
Oh, me too. I was too. I really was. Yeah.
Well, there's a podcast I like, and it's 4 men, and they're extremely successful. I love the podcast. And when it ends, love you, we can say that,
Yeah.
We can say that to each other, and we gotta say
love
it.
you.
Yeah.
It was really great having you here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's great to be with
What's
you
the
guys.
podcast?
All in.
All in.
All in.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that
been
too.
recommended
Oh, that's a
to
heck
me
of a-
before.
Okay.
It's fantastic.
Okay.
Do you watch or listen to Huberman?
Yeah. I listened to Huberman this week. He had a divorce lawyer on, and I'm
saw that.
not interested in divorce, but there's no topic more interesting to me than love and relationships.
Yeah.
And this was 3.5 hours on a professional who deals in the end of love and relationships.
Yeah.
It was extremely interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I usually don't do it on air, but I will name drop once in a while. He's a client of mine, and so I get a chance to interact with him.
Okay.
And he's a great and interesting person.
Please let us have a beer or something sometime
Yeah.
with him, because he came into one of my open houses.
Oh, he did.
And, and I'm a fan boy, and I am Chase.
When was this? And he came without me. Wait a minute.
It was in his neighborhood. He was just looking around.
Yeah, and so you're talking about
hello,
those-
I'm Andrew.
Yeah.
I know who you are, and it was just cool as heck. So,
He's very sweet, and one of the difficulties he has is he's so recognizable that I would get out of the car to go to an open house with them. People would stop, like traffic would stop and
Interesting.
people would get out. Yeah.
Wow, this is amazing,
Yeah.
Chase.
Yeah.
You're so
Thank you.
Awesome, and
Thank
appreciate
you.
everything.
Yeah, thank you.
you very
Genuine,
much.
It's been fun.
authentic, all
Yeah.
of it, man.